Welcome, listeners, and thanks for joining us for our program today. We have a very special guest in studio from our community. Both of them are retired individuals, and they've been hard at work on making sure that people have access to information. We have Jan Boyer, who is a retired healthcare practitioner. Wellness is at the core of everything that she does. She's a very passionate volunteer, as she has been retired from her profession for some time. And alongside Jan, we have Doug Clarke. And many know Doug is a smiling, friendly person behind a great deal of conservation here in Elko County. Also an avid volunteer in introducing people to the outdoors, making sure they have a safe time. Doug is retired from the U.S. Forest Service. And Jan, I'll just start with you to just get people more acquainted with you and to talk about an event set for Saturday, October 18th. Thanks for coming here today, Jan.
Thank you, Lori. I'm pleased to be here, and I'm very grateful that Doug has joined us and brought us here, too. So we're really scared right now. Our country's going in the wrong direction. We love our country. We're not out to be critical and to be hateful. We are happy to be American. And right now, we're just worried. We see things going in the wrong direction. What do you think, Doug?
Well, I am concerned about the administration's efforts in many aspects of our government, whether it's local or national or even international. So I think we have to speak up and share our voice, and hopefully we can affect some change in a positive manner.
I'm just thinking on the way here today that informed
Choice.
Yes, that is the phrase that it was. And I think we need to be connected with the truth of what's going on. And some of us are listening to one source of information, some of us another. And what we need to do is get in touch with each other, sit down like we did with the Celebrating the Constitution panel discussion the other day with Republicans, Democrats, Independents, everybody, and have a conversation. What kind of country do we want? What are we looking for? What's our vision?
Thank you, Jan. Jan Boyer alongside Doug Clarke. Now, they're going to be talking about the No Kings Rally. This is the second rally of its kind in Elko, and it's set for Saturday, October 18th. We'll talk about some of those details. But Doug, obviously, this is a group of not just the two of you, right? I mean, you're representing a local organization?
Yes, our local organization, I'd say, is somewhat informal. We really don't have a charter or any membership, but more just local citizens who are concerned about, again, what I call the administration's current actions and the outcome on all of us or a lot of us in Elko and throughout the nation.
And Jan, this is a nonpartisan effort, right? We were talking about this, going over some notes before our broadcast.
Yes, it is. We have Republicans, Democrats, Independents. Some of the people are not affiliated with any party. We're all out there because we're worried and we want to have a voice. Right now, what's happening in the country is suppression of dissent, and people are not getting the truth, and we need to share that truth. I think we're being controlled by a small group of very wealthy people right now, and we're not all able to speak out what we really feel.
And Doug, we've had several of these events over the summer in Elko. And what is your impression of both the turnout and the reaction?
I've been impressed with the turnout. I think maybe in our biggest event we had roughly 200 people show up. So I thought that was a really good turnout, given that we're predominantly a conservative Republican county and city.
Yes, I think we have a very happy group when we're out there. People have their signs, they have their families. We get lots of people honking and telling us we're with you. Get a few bad gestures and so forth, but we just are very careful that this is a peaceful and nonpartisan, non-aggressive event, and we don't want to argue with anybody. We're here to just have a voice.
Jan Boyer and Doug Clarke are our guests today, and again, both Jan and Doug have been talking about participating in the recent community panel celebrating Constitution Day, and I wanted to know if either of you wanted to share your impression of that. It seems as though just this conversation on the radio, Jan, it looks as though it's a place to build from, a foundation, if you will.
Yes, I really appreciated that panel discussion. We all really agreed on the importance of the Constitution. And afterward, I spoke with Scott Gavorski of the Republican Party, Janine Hansen of the Independent Party, and other people too. And we all we're on the same page in a way. We're not arguing. And I think it set up something for the future too. I think it got us connected.
You hear things, as you mentioned, Jan, if you're relying on just maybe one source or social media where there's a lot of misinformation that's generated. And Doug, I was just wondering, we hear things like, fascism or authoritarianism. That wasn't really discussed during the Constitution Day panel discussion, but we don't see that reflected in Elko, do we? I mean, with local people being fascist or authoritarian.
Boy, I'd have to think about that for a minute, because I think both sides, we maybe get a little too emotional and heated and are throwing out names, maybe name calling, without a lot of thought. And so I think even myself, sometimes we kind of need to tone down that rhetoric. But I do think that should start with President Trump and his cabinet in setting the example. But
I agree with that, Doug. I think that the government is reflecting the wrong direction right now, because it's shut down. It's not ruling with the Constitution in mind or the law in mind. Instead, we have executive orders, and we have phony emergencies. We have just all these directives that we have had no say in. We were told we would have better cost of living, and that has not happened. We would be able to have no cuts in programs, and we've lost all these jobs. We've lost all these programs, and we're affected. Our families are affected. Our Social Security might be affected. Our health care is going to be affected, and it's frightening. When we want to be a country that represents everybody and not just a few wealthy people.
The two guests represented here on today's program are from the local group that is presenting the Elko No Kings Rally, the second in the series, on Saturday, October 18th. And in response to, the current administration, I think, Jan, that you use the word suppression, that you feel hesitant to speak out. And Doug, and when I mentioned to you, I use the words fascism and authoritarianism. I talk to a lot of people in the community, and it seems as though both sides, or all sides, if you will, are bewildered.
Yeah, I do think there are a lot of different viewpoints, and people are affected differently. And but locally, I am happy that we haven't seen any local efforts for suppression or trying to respect our right to protest and speak out. So locally, even though Jan said, a few gestures and some people rolling a little bit of coal when we've had our earlier rallies, I am overall happy that we're being at least allowed to share our voice and participate.
No, I agree with you, Doug, that we have a very strong economy here, which is unusual in many parts of the country. There are a lot of people suffering cuts in their food stamps or the programs that support their elderly time, and we don't feel it here so much. But I think what we need to do is begin to set maybe you call it a microcosm, but just set an example by the Democrats and the Republicans and the other independents sitting down together and talking. I don't think we do enough of that, but I think we all want to.
And I think both of you as guests today have mentioned or maybe hinted to the influence that social media has. And I know that I found for myself, or personally, if I start to consume a lot of social media, that I become anxious, and then I start to realize, wait, I'm not getting the whole picture, because as a news broadcaster, I will seek out various sources, and I'll read lots of different sources and to get information. But I think there are algorithms, Doug. Is that something you're familiar with? Things that show up in someone's feed.
I'm on social media, Facebook, etc. One trying to, in addition to the more traditional news sources on my computer homepage there, and I think it is harder and harder to kind of ferret out what is actually happening. One, I think the misinformation coming from DHS, Department of Homeland Security, HHS, is making it harder. We have to spend more time to actually figure out what's going on before we kind of jump the gun and make things worse.
I think in referring to vaccinations, for example, and Jan, wondering if you had a thought about that, being a retired healthcare practitioner.
Well, I think people exaggerate the situation. I read something on social media that somebody said, well, we don't want to be locked in our houses and forced to have vaccinations and so forth. But on the other hand, we want to have a voice. So let's have a discussion about it. Let's have a choice about it. I go back to that. And instead of just watching one station, how about looking into some research? It takes a little effort to read some of these newsletters that come out from the people that are really looking at these things, some of the historians, some of the authors. I could mention some Reich or Timothy Snyder, Heather Richardson, and going to this website that we have, mobilize.us or nokings.org. Those two websites, mobilize.us and nokings.org, you can find out more about these demonstrations that we are offering people to come out and speak out their voice. And that, again, is for our Saturday event.
This will be, we should probably get back to that, and then we can obviously talk more about some of the issues. Again, what compels our guest today and the many people behind them. Doug, as you mentioned, it's a loose organization. You've had over 100 people who have participated in rallies or demonstrations locally, and you have nonpartisan representation, people of all different voter registration, for example. What can you tell us, Doug? And then we'll let Jan fill in the blanks, too, about the Elko No Kings Rally, which is set for Saturday the 18th.
Thank you. We are meeting at the main city park, right adjacent to the Chamber building on East Idaho Street, and we will be rallying and protesting from noon to approximately 1:30. So we're hoping for a good turnout, and we're inviting everybody, their friends, families, dogs, pets. Bring everybody and let your voice be heard.
The last one we had was so much fun. We had No King's Day number one, and we had, I think it was close to 250 if you counted the people. It was Flag Day, too, so everybody was waving flags, and there were Republicans and Democrats going up and down the street waving. So it was a great time, and it's like celebrating that we have a voice. We will be meeting at, as Doug said, at noon, and we invite you to be there with us.
Jan Boyer is our guest alongside Doug Clarke. Both are volunteers with the local organization. There are actually several different groups that are associated with the national effort. So in the full transparency, Indivisible and Move On, Mobilize.us, 51, Public Citizen. Doug, would you agree that those are sort of the primary supporters of this nationwide effort?
I think so, yeah. Many different organizations, but really one main focus of I think what Jan said,
What we're aiming for is a lot of people out in this country this Saturday, because what I understand is that if we have 11 million people out, that will be 3.5% of our population, and that will make a difference in our government. Whereas we've been building up to that with these. We've had 5 or 6 protests or demonstrations, as we prefer to call them, already since April here. And we've been building up nationally more and more. And so like last King's Day, I think we had 5 or 6 million people out nationally. Now we invite people to wear costumes, be a frog. I'm going to be Groucho Marx myself, and I'm going to be out there with my sign. But we're making it light. We're not yet facing ice here that I know of, but we have law enforcement that's called us and said they're going to be out there protecting our right to speak. So we'll all be safe.
I'm glad that you brought that up, because that is important. That Elko area law enforcement have been, if not a very visible presence, they have certainly been behind the scenes, just as they have done for every kind of gathering or event in which there may be controversial ideas or opposing sides. Certainly in the events that I've covered with this group, it's the environment that you described, Jan. People are lighthearted, and there are families there, children in strollers and dogs, and a lot of American flags.
People from quite a ways away. They come from, of course, Wells and Carlin, but they've even come from other states to be with us. So we're looking forward to that. People are signing up every day, and so I know we're going to have a good turnout.
sign up is encouraged, but you don't have to sign up if it's a last minute thing that maybe you decided not to go golfing that day and come out. So we do encourage sign up so we have an idea of how many people to plan for. But if it's a last minute thing, just show up. And you definitely don't have to stay for the whole hour and a half. Maybe some people are going shopping, but they might have 10 minutes.
And you don't have to make a sign. It would be great if you do, but we have lots of signs. The national team has sent us many published signs already, so we're prepared for you.
That's the No Kings Rally, Saturday, October 18th. And Doug and Jan are both giving us details, again, about the organizers, about the local effort with the theme of connecting, where there's obviously a disconnect from what you've been describing from your perspective, and that this is a nonpartisan effort. There's not one particular registered group that's steering the effort. It is a culmination of citizens who, and even within the organization, it sounds as though, Doug, people may not always have this same viewpoint. They just want to have the freedom to express the viewpoints.
Yes, I think there's myriad of reasons why somebody might want to come out and just share their opinion and voice their concern. It could be, like Jan said, healthcare. It could be the rollback of environmental protection measures that I think are going to, in the long run, harm a lot of Americans. And then there's the rollback of women's choice across the country. And there's the tariffs, which are impacting a lot of the local businesses. So I think the list could go on and on. Cutback of USAID programs throughout the world is another one. The extension of the billionaire tax credits. I believe that billionaires, the wealthiest 1%, should be paying more instead of cutting health care for a lot of the local residents. We're going to see that in impact, I think, very soon if that isn't put back into the current budget.
And the problem is that the government is locked down right now, and we are the people. We really own this country. The people do, not the people that are sitting in Congress, not the president. We're all important, and right now we need to speak out. That's the only thing that's left right now. With nothing happening in the Congress, We need to speak out. We all want informed choices. We need to educate ourselves. We need to speak out. We need to argue and agree and converse, and we need to have a voice in our own democratic republic.
I think I've heard this term used a lot. I mean, we have a democracy only as long as we can keep it. There is sort of this initial shock, I think, of people that consume media, whether they're doing it in social media or looking at national reports, that they think, well, surely this will be the last straw, as though Social Security really won't end. Our friends and neighbors and people sometimes our family members won't be deported, for example, or detained. And we're seeing these heightened examples of stories nationally.
Well, we are talking amongst ourselves, and there are friends right in this community that know and have found out what their health care premiums are going to be if this negotiating does not happen in Congress, if we do not listen to each other. Instead, we have this insistence that we know we need to have this bill go through that was introduced and passed, but health insurance for people in this community are going to double. The premiums are, and that's a fact.
And how does that impact people on fixed incomes, Jan? I mean, I'm not asking about your personal information but you are retired, and so you seem very passionate about this topic.
Well, for Medicare, I was speaking more about the Affordable Care Act premiums, but for Medicare, what I understand is the costs, the deductibles and so forth will go up, the premiums for that, but it's another situation there, whether or not the program is going to be supported and Social Security is going to be continued. That's not so much what we're talking about today. We're just talking about having a voice and conversing, negotiating, and not just saying, I'm not going to do anything with you. I'm taking my marbles and going home because you don't agree with me. That's not going to work in this country, unless we want to turn over all our power to one person.
Jan Boyer is our guest, along with Doug Clarke, as we're talking about Elko's No Kings Rally 2, which is Saturday, October 18th. Doug, obviously being retired, U.S. Forest Service, you've been through a shutdown, at least one, if not more, and I'm sure that there are concerns, even with local retirees, something known as the Public Employees Retirement System. We are already seeing premiums go up, and we're seeing the impacts on city and county government. Are you concerned about your security in the future and your retirement?
I would have to say, as I'm not part of the PERS, which is the state run program, but the FERS, Federal Employee Retirement System, I feel pretty secure with my retirement. Social Security is, I think, up in the air, and in the long run we might see some reductions, but overall, personally for me, I feel so far pretty secure. But I am concerned about other people in the city who don't maybe have as good a retirement and are relying on Social Security, or really rely upon Medicare and Medicaid for a lot of their
for coverage of their issues when they can't they get sick.
Yeah, for health coverage.
Do you know what that reminds me? I'm a mother and I'm a grandmother. I have 2 grandsons who live in out of state. I'm concerned about suppressing their education, their books, get the movement toward changing our history and not telling them the truth about what happened in this country so that we don't make the same mistakes. So we need to be informed. We need to not allow the news to be controlled, the education to be controlled, the voting to be controlled. Hopefully we'll have good, fair elections, but we have to stand up and make sure that happens.
These are conversations that I know in my lifetime I never imagined that we'd be having here on Elko Live. This is our local radio show in which we feature community members talking about local issues, and that's why we have both Doug Clarke and Jan Boyer here. Anybody listening to this conversation, people who participated in the Constitution Day panel, know this is difficult. These are difficult conversations. So why do you put yourself through it? Why do you do it, Doug?
Well, I am concerned about my neighbors. I'm concerned about the people in Elko County and beyond, and again, all the way up to people in Africa, Afghanistan. We should be still the beacon of democracy and the leader of the free world. And I think we've pretty much thrown that away in a lot of respects. So for the future of the country, I don't have kids, but I have nephews and nieces, and they have kids. So I'd like to do my part to make sure that they inherit a better world, a better community. So I think we all need to step up.
Well, Doug, I hope that people hearing you will understand that putting yourself out there is not easy. As you described, you feel secure in your retirement. You're doing this for other people, for your community, and for the world at large. Jan, did you also, if you wouldn't mind talking about, you could be home enjoying your family and your grandkids, as you described, and reading them the books from the library that you can choose, for example. Why do you participate? Why do you put yourself out here in this way?
Well, again, I am interested in my family and wanting things to be good for their education and so forth. It breaks my heart. It really breaks my heart to see what's going on with the children of the world. I was a pediatric nurse when I first started in nursing, and to see the suffering of the child is heartbreaking. So I would like to do everything I can to support our compassion in this country and our care for others, and not just, well, I'm going to make a buck and I'm going to compete with everybody else. And I definitely am concerned about building up the military as a war machine rather than as a defensive, limited organization. And I don't want my tax money going that way. I want my tax money going to help people, not to destroy people.
Jan Boyer and Doug Clarke, our guest. Elko's No Kings Rally is set for noon on Saturday, October 18th. And as you mentioned, Doug, lining Idaho Street.
Yes, we're hoping for a good turnout. So please, if you have the time, think about what you could be doing that day and what's more important. So I won't personally be there, but I will be in Wisconsin at another rally. So I'll be with Elko residents in spirit.
We're going to wear yellow if we can. Some of us will wear yellow bandanas, and that's the theme color. So have fun with that and the costumes. And yes, it's at just noon. You come a little early. That's great. We'll have some little snacks there, and we welcome you with signs as well.
Thank you both for being on the program and reminding us again the importance of participation and standing up and speaking out. And this is a community that has seen all sides of many issues, and we would really appreciate the opportunity to continue to do so as local broadcasters. So thank you, Jan. Did we get to all the topics you were hoping to?
Laura, you do such a wonderful job. Thank you so much for all that you do. We love listening to you, and you really have a way with words. So we appreciate your bringing us here today.
Thank you, Jan. And thank you, Doug, and safe travels.
Yep, you're welcome. Thanks. So hopefully we'll be back on in maybe a few months to give people an update on how this nationwide effort is going.